Welcome to Career Secrets, the channel where we unlock the mysteries of striving in a career in the high-tech industry. I am Professor Edmund. Today, we have a special guest, Dominic Fung, a super technology consultant and a veteran with over 25 years of experience in the software industry. Dominic has navigated the intricate paths of pre-sales engineering and implementation consulting, making him the perfect guide for anyone looking to build a successful career in these fields. In this episode, Dominic will share his invaluable insight on what it takes to excel as a sales engineer, one of the best paying non-executive roles in business. We'll dive into his career journey, explore the nuances between roles such as technical support, sales engineer, and implementation consultant, and discuss the rewarding aspects of both pre-sales and post-sales jobs. Whether you are an aspiring sales engineer or looking to advance in technical support or consulting, this episode is packed with tips and advice to help you achieve your career goals. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to stay updated with our latest content. Sales engineer is one of the best paying non-executive or non-managerial roles in business. When I grow up, I want to be a sales engineer, Dominic. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Professor Edmund. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who is watching this. I'm extremely happy to be here. I've known Professor Edmund for many, many years. I lost count of it. And we used to partner together. He's one of the best account executives I've ever worked with. So I was sad to see him retiring. But then I'm also really happy that he brought that knowledge and experience into the education domain so that now he can educate and help the next generation to hopefully become as good as he has been.
Thank you, Dominic. You have been a very successful sales engineer for more than 25 years. Could you tell us about your career journey and how you become a sales engineer?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I didn't think too much about what I really wanted when I was in school, right? So I had really great marks in all the STEM courses. So naturally, at the time, it was in the early 90s. So all the guys are going into like computer, into hardware, software, etc. So I have enough grade to get into University of Waterloo for the computer engineering program. So I applied for it, got accepted, and I just followed that path. Unfortunately, without thinking too much about what I really want or what really drive me or what I'm passionate about. Granted, I think a lot of people when they're 18, 19 years old, they probably were in the same boat. So I shouldn't be too hard on myself. But I always now trying to tell my daughter the same thing, that they find that if you have that passion, if you have something that you would just lose yourself into when you are exploring or you are studying something, follow that path, even if it's not like a very common, well-traveled path like all your friends are doing, because when you do find something that you're really good at and you're passionate about, you'll be successful. Right? So I went into engineering school. I came out doing okay, graduated, got a degree. Not sure what I wanted to do, because for one thing I knew I didn't want is to be in development. So I want to be with people. I don't want to be in product development. So I wasn't going for those jobs. And then I saw a job posting from Oracle for an internship program. So what that program entailed was a 6-month stint in different line of business. So it started with support, and then they move you into a pre-sales organization for 6 months, move you into Oracle University to be a trainer for 6 months. And then at the end, they'll put you in the Oracle consulting practice, and you'll be an implementation consultant, spending time with customer day in, day out to implement Oracle solutions. So I applied for the program, they accepted me, and then my career kind of launched from that point.
Wow. So you were at one point a technical support person.
Absolutely. And I love it. I love that part of my journey. I was a co-op student too, and I was in Waterloo. And my first job really is a network support person. And the manager was awesome, right? He had a one-on-one with me and asked me, "Hey, Dominic, so what do you want to do? What's your career aspiration?" And I told him that, "Hey, I want to do what I'm doing. I love this. I love helping people. I love to be out there seeing people, because that network support role require me to be visiting the people complaining about connectivity, right? So it is an old school thing back in the mid 90s. You have to go to the patch panel in the back to make sure the wires are connected properly. Sometimes it's somehow disconnected. So I got to see a lot of people. I got to go visit them, and I think that's the part that I really enjoyed. And he was like, "No, Dominic, like you should be looking at more, again, product development, engineering type work, because of the program that I was in." But then, again, it's the two side of the things, right? So what may pay well, what you think may be prestigious, and should be a good career versus what you really enjoy, right? So eventually, I think now I found I can fit both sides of that balance, like the scale. So now I get to be with my customer all the time, helping them get to the outcome they need to get to, while helping them to make their life easier. At the same time, having a job that is considered to be pretty well paid, well regarded, and important to the organization. So sometimes again, I'm going to share what my journey has been like, and this is my personal opinion and my experience. But I want to also emphasize the fact that like you're not you, but the audience is not me, and I'm not them. So replicating what Dominic has done does not always work for everyone, right? You got to look deep into yourself and see who you really are, what drive you. And again, reach out to me if you want to have a more personal chat about this further. I'll be more than happy to have the conversation.
Great. I appreciate that. And follow your passion. I think it's really important. Going back to all the terms and the roles, we talk about sales consulting or sales being a sales consultant, a sales engineer, and a pre-sales consultant. Sometimes it's they're all used interchangeably. I'm a little bit confused. Even me, I'm a little bit confused. Can you dive into a little bit more detail about tech support versus pre-sales consulting and the different roles available in the technology sector?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I like my time in tech support because you develop a lot of skills, right? Not just technical skills, but like problem solving skills and some soft skills regarding dealing with customers, right? Like keeping them happy, and there would be conflicts, there would be escalations, there would be tense situation that you have to deal with. So that is a good kind of training that you can carry with you to any company that you ever work with. So the technology aspect is good for that particular role, but then once you move on, it's the soft skills that you get to continue to develop and carry with you for the rest of your career. But the tech support part, it kind of attracts me because I like solving problems and I like helping people, right? So that's awesome. And I've
Dominic,
also,
I
yeah,
apologize, Dominic. Remember that thought, but just for our audience, tech support, whatever you did at the time, was it on the phone or was it
yeah,
also?
it is on the phone. So I was the first line support, right? So yeah, that's a great point there, Edmund, Professor Edmund. So you got the like level one, level two, level three. So I was a level one support. So I will be the one picking up the phone and taking down the information. So today, right, I think most of the time you open a case on some online portal, and so that case will be routed through some mechanism to the right engineer or the right support analyst, and they own the case, and then it would determine whether that person can resolve the problem because maybe there's a knowledge-based article already in there in the system that can address the common question, or it is a bug that's been identified already, so it's easy to send a patch. Those kind of things could be handled by level one, but then a lot of times they may need engineering support, right? There's a new issue, or you need to do some testing, you need to find the root cause. So typically the support analyst would not be able to handle that entirely. So it will have to farm out, create tasks from the case and send it over to the different development teams, engineers, networking team, etc., depending on the nature of the problem. And then that person, the case owner, become like the quarterback of that exercise, right?
So
And
how technical do you have to be? Do you have to know engineering? What do you need to know? Or if there's a database, a lot knowledge base to help you out?
yeah, so I think that that's a great question there. I think the more effective support analyst would understand the product to a large extent, right? So now everything is SaaS. So you're not going to be like talking about the infrastructure and the database much. So if it's, let's say, I have a financial services application that I'm using to process my procure to pay operations. Me being a customer will be just users. I log onto a system, I'm trying to process some invoices and somehow got an error or unexpected result, then I call support for help. And it would be essential for the analyst to understand that process so that when you're taking down the problem, you understand the context, be able to ask the right questions, and then decide like which team or who you have to reach out to for help if needed. And so it's a big long learning curve upfront, right? So initially, at least from my perspective, because you do need to know a lot about the platform
So
and the solution.
for software, I can imagine that you would have to know quite a bit about the domain. So you have some industry experience and then how the software works. But let's just think about other opportunities in other fields, such as maybe a carrier and somebody's calling about their phone. I suspect that they don't the tech engineers, they don't need to be 100% educated on all the phones and be an expert in all the different areas. I would suspect that they would have knowledge base that they can search.
Right. That could very well be. And also it can be the first layer could be the triage, right? So determining the nature of this, right? Is it a customer a problem that a customer can resolve themselves by being pointed to a knowledge base, right? Or it could be something simple that can be addressed directly over the phone without having to even open the case. But then when it comes to something technical, right, something is not working, that's what I was thinking, as that's typically what I was dealing with. But that was a long time ago, when I was in support. When people have a problem, they call it in, and then we have to try to figure out what caused the problem. Again, it could be a user error. Maybe they're not like trained to use this process properly. So, or maybe it's a configuration thing on their side. It could also be a product. So that is what I was doing at the time. I only spent months there in that role, right? Again, kind of moving on to the next stage during the internship program. And so, yeah, most of us say goodbye to that role, and then we just move on to some other exciting roles in the organization.
Going back to sales consultant SEs, sales engineers SEs, and pre-sales consultants, are they all the same? Do they mean the same
Yeah,
thing?
so to me, I talk about pre-sales. Pre-sales, obviously, as the name implies, is before you get the deal, right? So your role is to provide, like, use your technical expertise to help get that technical win. So we typically would pair up with someone like what your role was at Oracle, the account executive. So leading the charge, building the relationship, managing the sales cycle, bringing the technical expertise required to basically get that technical win, right? So that is the sales consultant's role. How do you match the capability that your system solution has and help the customer understand how that can uniquely solve the problem? That not only we can solve the problem that you have, that is causing you time, money, energy of your staff, maybe reputational risk, but we are the only solution out there that can do it, right? So that's the ultimate goal. And then there are also other roles that would help to drive the value conversation. I'm investing in a solution that can help me do A, B, C, and D, that in turn would give me all this value, whether it's monetary, whether it is again reputational, or it can help me earn more customers or prevent customers to be leaving us because our support system is not up to par, those kind of things. So that is typically what sales consultants pre-sales role is. And once that technical win has been achieved, that particular role can roll off the engagement. So if I like again, like Professor Edmund, you are experienced in like selling and running these very complex sales cycles, and there's a lot of pieces, right? So there's a lot of different specialists that will be recruited to support the process. So typically in a sales organization, you have the inside sales, right? They do most of the work over the phone, virtually on the internet, more high volume, maybe the deal size will be a bit smaller. And then you continue to move up the market, have the customers that are larger and larger, more and more complex, and the sales cycle become longer and longer, and get into the enterprise space, and then get into the strategic or the marquee customer space. So at the top of that tier would be in Canada, the big banks, the Roger, Loblaw of the world. And those are in the company that I work for anyway, considered to be like the biggest customer that we have a different team to handle. And so the nature of that pre-sales role varies dramatically between these different segments of customer base. My official title is a senior advisory solution consultant. So it's taking the sales away from a title, just to emphasize that hey, I'm here from a solutions perspective, helping customer understand how they can best use our offerings, our portfolio to help solve their problems.
But Dominic, you are at the top of the spectrum. You are the lead for your big customers. I think for most of the sales engineers, when they are entering into the market, they will be dealing with all kinds of customers and they will be serving salespeople daily, many of them, variety of companies. I think whatever your role is actually atypical. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say so because it took me some time to get to where I am. And to your point, typically for the early in career sales consultants, they typically will start with, like I mentioned earlier, the inside sales, selling to the smaller customers, large volume, smaller dollar amount. So there's a lot more a demo involved, right? There's a lot more activity. So doing more discoveries, doing more demos, and to get that technical win quickly, and then move on to the next engagement. Right? There's a lot more customer. The base they're serving would be a lot larger, and so there's a lot of at-bats. Right? So you could be doing 5 demos a day to 5 different customers. And to your point, there could be a team of 15 account executives that they are aligned with or aligned to. And it's not one to support 15, but depending on the ratio, depending on the organization, you may be supporting like 2 or 3 of them. And then you'll be helping out if your particular expertise needed, because like a lot of times the portfolio is so big that it's hard for one SC, or we call it sales consultant, to be able to manage the entire thing. So it will divide and conquer, right? So you have a team of 5, and then they will be focusing in different areas, and they may overlap in other areas, so they can do the same thing to support the AE. But then other times they may have to tap their colleague on the shoulder and say, hey, can you help me with this, because it happened to fall into your area of expertise that I don't have a lot of experience with. So we have a bit of that as well. I think to your point, absolutely. And sometimes people like to stay being a subject matter expert. I've known some of my best, most talented, smartest colleagues. They want to stay within a particular subject matter expert, like an area, and be that go-to person. So that is another career, a kind of a decision that you have to make, right? So my last boss explained to me, right, there are 3 kind of types of career path, right? So one is the climber. That's a typical. When I explained to my mother, she would think I'll be successful if I were climbing, right? Continue to be a manager, a director, a VP, etc. So that's one form that is commonly considered to be the only path, right? But then my former boss told me there are 2 others. So there's the explorer. So people that want to try different things, they want to move laterally. They want to try, maybe like after 2 years in sales consulting, I want to see what marketing is like. I want to see what product management is like. And then there's also product marketing, right? So product marketing in our organization is more about like building out demos and designing the go-to-market strategy to support our internal salespeople, right? So that allow you to be in the latest and greatest, be in the forefront of all the technology. We think that in pre-sales is already in that space, but then there's a team that is in a service now to support us, right? They have to tell us what is coming. They design the material, the demos, and all that, so that now when we go to the field and show to our customers, we're well equipped and we are not building everything from scratch. And then the last one would be the divers. They want to be really deep in one particular area. So their career goal could be, hey, if I could be considered the top 5 AI expert in the world, it'll make my career. So they want to be in the very niche, right? Or in that particular area that became the go-to person for the organization, right? So don't limit yourself as to, I need to be a VP, right? And my goal is to become a leader, because that takes it is a very different mindset and personality, and also your day-to-day activity is very different from when you are a pre-sales consultant, right? So if you like myself, I really like what I do, and I really like to be customer facing all the time, solving problems and building and maintaining that relationship with them. I want to, yeah. So like moving into that role may not serve me well.
Got it. Have you ever considered moving into a sales executive position? Why and why not?
Great question there. So I have a lot of my colleagues. Some of them would be like, hey, I am doing all the work, and so why shouldn't I be paid like a account executive? So far, right, I have not been in that position, right? So I have always been lucky enough to, work with people like yourself, Professor Edmund, like highly functioning and educated and knowledgeable. So in a way, I don't see myself being able to like reach your kind of a level to be that successful. But I will consider it. And I think what happens here is that I want to be also getting my hands dirty, staying with the technology. And I know that, as a account executive, I have been exposed to some of that, right? You have to deal with the legal and procurement, and that role is not very appealing to me.
Could you please briefly explain the implementation consultant role, which you did for accounting software?
Yes, I love that role. I'm fresh out of school. I have almost nothing to offer. So that internship program at Oracle was perfect. It trained me for 18 months in various roles before they released me into the field as an implementation consultant. So now I have accumulated a lot of knowledge on the Oracle software, the usage of it. When we're in support, when we're in Oracle University, you get to talk to customers and understanding how they use it. So talk about me wanting to be with the customer, helping them out, solving problem with them. That is the ultimate, the best role. And you build relationship. Again, you're one of them. You get the email address, account in the company, you get a badge, and you're living there for like, 8 months, 12 months at a time when I was there. A lot of fun, and you get to see something go live. I think that's the satisfying part, right? If you are a typical pre-sales consultant, right, like I mentioned before, you got that technical win, you move on, right? You may not even know if you actually have won the deal. You may know because you get commission, but usually you don't get to see like how the customer is using it, the end result. I think to me, when I was a consultant, it was the best part. Go live, celebrate. You can actually see tangible result getting achieved. And then on top of that, I get to travel the world quite a bit. I happen to be one of the first adopters, I guess, of a technology, Oracle workflow at the time. And there's not a lot of people know the product. So when they need someone, oh, Dominic from Toronto can do it. So they sent me to Peru, they sent me to Germany, to the UK. And I was young at the time, right? No family, so I got to go explore those different culture, different countries, and just spend a lot of time there. And that really enriched my career.
Great story. I found the most impressive thing, Dominic, was that you were not an accountant, but you were actually implementing accounting software and you were also a trainer at the time, correct?
Correct, yes.
I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, that is just a lot of learning, a lot of learning, a lot of talking to people, learning through doing. My colleagues and the more senior ones, they're all chartered accountants, right? CAs, CMAs, and they will bring a different perspective, different level of expertise in that particular area. You know the product really well, and then you can then work with the customer. The customer know the process, right? And you marry the two together. You just have to collaborate better and be more open-minded and understand that hey, I'm not going to necessarily push the accounting best practice on them, but what I can do is I can help them understand how the software works out of the box, and then whether that is something that they may want to adopt, or they may need the software to adapt to their processes, their workflow, their best practices. You'd be surprised at the stupid questions I had to ask when I was in support. So I think the good thing is I get time to spend in support to really learn the basics of the accounting principles while I'm supporting the customers. I don't have to know everything about accounting. I need to know everything about accounting that pertains to or is related to the software that we're supporting.
Excellent.
So that is pretty narrow focus. And again, just keep learning.
Great story. Next question. Pre-sales is often viewed as a direct contributor to revenue generation. Given your experience, which role, pre-sales or post-sales, do you find more fulfilling? And what personality traits do you believe align with each role for those considering a technical career in technology consulting?
Great question there. I always found, especially early on, that pre-sales is a lot more pressure. So you have one shot. Typically, when you're with the customer, I'm talking about the traditional doing discovery to understand the customer's problems and then preparing a demo and then show it to the customer. So you have a very low number of interactions with the customer. In post-sales, you truly are a partner. They already invested in the solution and you're there day in and day out. You're one of them. You're focusing on using your expertise to help the customer to move that project along. What I like more, I think initially I like that consultant role more, but then obviously I've been in pre-sales for a long, long time. I like the pre-sales because I get to see more customer. I get to do the exciting part, I think, of the whole process more because it's more upfront. There's a problem we want to solve. We find a way to solve it, and then we show it to the customer to get the buy-in, get the technical win. I don't know if I'm articulate enough to explain it properly here. It is completely different way of life, and it requires different personality in a way. In the pre-sales world, you're a performer. It's like a American Got Talent show. You showcase the solution that you're representing, get the customers buy-in. On the other side, in post-sales, you get a lot more time and opportunity to impress the customer.
How about technical support? Is that a good career? Phone support, tech support?
Yeah, I think it go back to your personality and what you want to do. I call it the diver, right? That diver kind of mode, you get a very fulfilling career in support. It's not for everyone. Some people are naturally really good at it. Some people hate it. and some people may be somewhere in between. But when I give a good demo, I felt pumped up for like a day or two. I like getting in front of people to talk about our solutions. So if you don't have that naturally in you, you may be able to develop it, but you may also not enjoy it as much as I have been.
There's nothing wrong with a young person starting off with tech support and then moving into pre-sales.
Yeah, that's basically how I did it.
That's a
Uh,
good career path.
you got to start somewhere. You need to think about what your goals are and keep them close to you, right? So it's easy for us to say, hey, you can start in support and then as a stepping stone, learn the product, right? Pick up those soft skills and then move on. But then you have to keep that in mind, right? You don't want to be sitting there for 10 years and then forget about. I know a lot of people, they keep pushing back on the return to office kind of policies. And I really like being in the office. You run into people, you have to make it worth your while, right? So a lot of people saying that, hey, come to the office, I have to commute, and then I end up wasting all my time. I could be more productive at home because it's quieter. But when you're in the office, then you get to collaborate with people. You run into people, and then you're like talking about what you're doing, what they're doing, and then suddenly some light bulb may come on.
Yeah, the
Learn
networking
from
part is so important. I concur with you about the career objectives. Actually, in this channel, early on, I have a video, six-step process in developing a career plan. So everybody should watch that because it speaks to the things that you talk about, knowing what you want.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can spend years doing the same thing, and at the end, you go, "What just happened?" In
Mhm.
the last 10 years, 15 years went by. Next question. Throughout your career, what stands out as the most intriguing or unconventional behavior you've witnessed from a salesperson?
The whole concept of you being the leader of that particular trend to be the customer advocate, right? Almost acting like you're not the salesperson. And I mentioned earlier, a lot of times customer expect the sales guy to come in, want to sell. And I talk to other CIOs and it's different. Just speaking to ServiceNow, it's refreshing because when the other technology company come in to talk to him, they're always selling, continuously selling. Like I mentioned earlier, I really like what I'm doing now because I want to help the customer maximize the value of the investment, right? So if there are certain things that aren't implemented properly or there are other opportunity there that they could expand the usage.
I love it. It's actually the first chapter in my book. Customer advocacy is first chapter in my book.
Yeah, I think that's the important piece. You need them to trust you and you have to earn their trust, right? You cannot just walk in there, expect them to trust you, especially when you have sales in your title.
Not a marketing objective, neither. You should be genuinely caring about your customer. Next question. You've achieved remarkable success in your career. Could you share your core principles that you attribute to your career success?
I don't know about remarkable success. We're being too generous. I'm happy where I am at. I really enjoy the journey. So that I would admit to. But I think the core principle, like I mentioned earlier before, be a quick learner and be an enthusiastic learner. Always keep learning. And I also am very customer focused. To me, the customer is not just my customer. You are my customer. My colleagues are my customer. My AE is my customer. I'm there to try to help everyone to up their game. Lean in, try to help. If it's not, well, if it is not your job because you don't have that knowledge, the expertise, help find that for the customer. You cannot be the one doing everything, but then you can be the one that help the customer navigate through the network and find the right resource to help them.
Excellent. The next one is easy. The next question. Who's your favorite sales executive?
Well, if you put a gun on my head, just kidding. Well, of course, you and I have spent so much time together, not just when we're working together. I think that, like, it is the testament. Actions speak louder than words. That we're still talking, we still get together quite often, right? After we have moved on to different things, right? So I left Oracle, where you and I worked together about over 6 years ago now, right? And then you move into a different career, and we're still doing this. So that absolutely, like I think, learn a ton from you, from watching you interacting with your customers. And I think you still keep in touch with a lot of your former customers as well, right? So that is another testimony of how much value and you have brought to them and how they respect and appreciate you in return.
Yeah, I've got a lot of good customers. Is AI, artificial intelligence, going to change the sales engineering landscape?
I think it already has. It's not necessarily going to replace all the work yet, but what it does is it prepare the practitioner. When the surgeon get into the operating room and when he or she get into that space, all the equipment that's needed is there, right? So that the surgeon is not spending time, wasting time looking up what he or she would need to perform the surgery. And the patient's record information or whatnot is readily available. So then he or she can just right away dive into doing what they're trained to do. So similarly, we make good money and the time that we spend is valuable. You have to be strategic about how you spend your hours. And AI can really help in looking things up for us. I think that's the one thing. If a customer have a question or we did do some research about something, now I was shocked at one time when I'm using a search and it finds stuff that I'm not even sure if the company expect me in my role to see. But it just happened that there's no security policy in place to explicitly block me. Then I get access to something that maybe some internal conversation with product development that I end up getting a preview of. So I think that from that perspective, it helped me do my research better. It cast a wider net, right? It looked into like data sources that I didn't even know existed. So that helped me quite a bit. And also then, like when you want to be a customer advocate, when you want to be effective in your job, you need to know the customer better, right? So now from that angle, the research using AI also help as well. I'm not just restricted to the 10K or whatever, so that I can see if there's anything there that maybe I have a CIO meeting coming up and I can bring up in the conversation. I think Gen AI is helping in multiple ways for us.
Next, last question. Is there anything that you want to add to what we've talked about? Any advice to the career-minded?
Again, back to where I started, right? In this recording, think deep about it. Don't think about the money yet, right? Think about what drives you. I totally subscribe to the concept of like the personality type and all that, right? So things could change over time, but I love interacting with people. My daughter always teases me about talking to strangers on the street, right? So she's like, I've never seen anyone talk to strangers as much as you do. And so that energizes me, right? I like to be in front of people. I like to go to networking events. I like to meet new people and learn about like the day to day. So it's not just about like seeing, hey, what can I get out of this contact, but genuinely be interested in people. And so that's me, right? And you get to understand or try to figure out what motivates you, what drives you, what energizes you, right? If you don't, you want to be alone and that energizes you, more introverted, there's nothing wrong with that. But then you can leverage that particular skill set and find some career that can benefit from that, right? So that you can focus, you're really good at getting things done on your own or in a smaller team kind of a setting. And there's value in it too, right? There are career that require those kind of skill sets. So what I'm trying to say is, especially early on, right, if the option, you have the ability to still trying to charter your course, figure out what attribute you have that can help that, right? Not despite that, right? Again, if you are naturally outgoing, want to talk to people, interested and curious about people, then the role I have could be good. Otherwise, look for something different. But the goal really is to think about who are you, right? And what motivates you, what drives you. And if you follow those, I think you can be successful in any job, right? You want to be like exceptional and really good in your job rather than I can do a job that is really highly regarded, but I'm like, the bottom quartile because, I'm not into it. The other folks were.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dominic. It's great to be with you again, and thank you for giving back. To conclude, Dominic talked about a lot of things, but knowing your strengths, follow your passion, develop a career plan, you'll be successful. This is Professor Edmund, and these are your career secrets. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Thank you again for having me. Take care.